Hello everyone, short video on the shores of Lake Lugano in the canton of Ticino. This week I'm lucky enough, really lucky, to have a private companion, a VIP, a celebrity. I'm not going to name who it is, but I'm lucky enough to be accompanying someone. I'm staying in a superb hotel. The person is resting, which gives me time to make a video. You should know that dry fasting is now starting to be appreciated by certain celebrities because you have two advantages of dry fasting. One is weight. You've got people in show business, actors, famous people. They're looking to lose weight, to keep their figure. They're looking for maintenance. They use natural medicines. Now we're seeing an interest and curiosity in natural medicines among these people in high society. You'd be surprised to see people doing a lot of natural things. They take care of themselves to be able to perform in the activities they're known for, whether it's sports, acting, or show business in general. These people are really interested in dry fasting for weight and fitness, but above all, rejuvenation. Because for me, dry fasting is the current method, one of the most effective methods for rejuvenation. From the moment you start dry fasting, a cellular reset takes place. Cellular reset. Your stem cells are naturally activated. You regenerate your body, your organs, you detoxify. And then, in the 3 weeks following a cure, you'll look much younger than your age. It's an excellent way to maintain your health. You keep fit. Some people are now taking an interest in these practices. In fasting, there are a few well-known people who do it. They've gone into names and things like that. I'm lucky to be here. It's a really beautiful place. As a Swiss, I never come to the Ticino part, the Italian part, which is so beautiful. I should come more often because it's really charming here. Anyway, today's topic. We're going to talk a bit about food with some key points today. The idea isn't necessarily to go into detail before dry fasting and after dry fasting. We're going to do something general. What are the points? We're not necessarily specific to the people we see in the office. There are specifics here. But I'm going to talk in general terms about the key points that can be adapted for everyone. After that, the practice is different because we have iridology. We do a complete checkup. We see the person's predispositions. We see their weaknesses, their strengths, their weaknesses. Iridology gives us an identity card of the person before, during, and after. It allows us to see how they function. With iridology, in 2 minutes, we understand who the person is, how we can help them, how we can improve them, and bioresonance gives us a snapshot with a precise analysis. Almost 1 in 5% accuracy of all organs, all systems are checked. This makes it possible to give help afterward, personalized coaching to help the person as best as possible. But here we're going to give general advice on general nutrition. In naturopathy, in natural health, there are 3 pillars. Nutrition, which is one of the fundamental pillars for maintaining the machine, providing the body with energy, fuel, and above all, not to clog up the body as much as possible, because even if we do nothing, we create waste. So if you're bringing in waste again 10 times over via an unbalanced diet, it's not ideal. So a few key nutritional points. First principle, eat regularly. This is one of the principles studied by Professor Reinberg's nutritional chronology. These are researchers who have carried out sound analyses on people. And then you have insulin peaks that rise during the day, you have peaks in the morning, you have an insulin peak at midday, and a peak in the evening. When insulin rises, you know you have to follow this cycle and eat at these times, so you have insulin peaks until 8:30, 6 to 8:30. You have a peak from noon to 2 o'clock. You have a peak from 5 o'clock until 8 o'clock, 8:15 I'd say. So you really have to eat according to these cycles and then eat at regular times. So people who tell you to eat when you're hungry, that's not quite right. Because eating when you're hungry means you eat in the middle of the night, you eat at 3 p.m. You eat at any time, you nibble, you peck, anything. You really have to eat at regular times. Everything in nature is a cycle. You have the hunger cycle, the seasonal cycle. Everything has a rhythm. We have rhythms, the circadian cycle, day-night. We're rhythmic beings. So, if you shift your eating habits to different times of the day, you'll completely upset your digestive system. For example, I've had people in my diet from the restaurant business. I had a lot of people who worked in restaurants, and everything was out of sync. I'd check them out, I could measure the state of their organs, and it was never good. Everything had shifted, everyone had digestive problems. They were eating hotel room service. That's in the morning at 10 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 23 o'clock. Everyone was out of whack. We really avoid eating at times that don't fit in with your chronobiology. The second principle is not to snack. We're seeing this right now, and I've also had children in consultation. I was calculating they were eating more than 15 times a day. You can imagine 15 food intakes. So every 2 hours, practically every 2 hours, you'd have someone pecking at something. Now, when you pick at something, when you've eaten a meal and you eat again an hour later, you block all your digestion. This compromises your vital energy. You're tired, you don't know why. Snacking is really poisonous. Even if I ate a piece of fruit an hour later, or a square of chocolate, a sweet, anything outside of meals, it's a disaster. When you nibble, digestion starts with the salivary ptyalin in your mouth. After that, you've got a whole host of digestive secretions in the stomach, pepsin, intrinsic factor, and so on. I won't go into detail here. In the stomach, the venom, you have secretions. The pancreas, you have secretions. All along the way, you have secretions, assimilations that take place via Peyer's plate in the intestine. So if you put something in your mouth an hour later, your meal is being digested. A conventional meal will take 4 hours to digest. If an hour later you put something back in your mouth, the new food arrives, your body says, there's a new food that's arrived. What enzyme is going to be secreted? Stop, we're blocking the digestion in progress, we're secreting new enzymes. Afterwards, it creates fermentations, putrefactions, it's tiring, you exhaust your digestive system and so on. This is the start of trouble, inflammation, etc. So nibbling is to be banned, avoided really. If you're too late, skip the meal. If you finished 2 or 2.5 hours ago, skip it and eat the next meal. Another principle. I'm not going to go into detail on all these subjects, but I'll give you a few keys. Plants, period, one of the foundations of health. Plants are the foundation of health. Many people think it's carbohydrates, others think it's proteins. No. The number one foundation is vegetables, rather softly steamed, rather cooked, I'd say blanched. That means 5 minutes in hot water or softly steamed, less than 100 degrees. You preserve all the micronutrients at this temperature, so there's no problem. When you put too much cold into the body, it cools down. Chinese medicine, which advises against raw food altogether. That's why with raw food, you give a small dose, and then you mix it. You start with hot food. You can start with raw food too, it doesn't matter. But you have to mix it up. The ideal is to mix the two. And then in winter, it's a little more cooked, a little less raw. And in summer, it's a little more raw. It's important to remember that every time you eat something raw, the body has to warm it up to body temperature, so it draws energy from it. So, of course, raw food provides micronutrients, but if you steam it, you're also conserving your micronutrients. So, to say raw is a panacea. I've seen people destroyed by raw food, people who were what we call angelic, fatigable, neurotritic. That's a naturopathic temperament. People like that, they were as white as a sheet, they had no iron, and they didn't eat protein. These are exhausted people, so after a while you have to pick them up with a spoon. You have to pump them up, give them protein, so eating raw is not the solution. Ideally, you should steam or blanch them in hot water. That way you preserve all the micronutrients. So it's not staying in hot water for an hour, in boiling water, that's not it. There are two ways of cooking vegetables. Vegetables are the base. After that, you build up the proteins, and then we can talk about ketogenic diets, low-carb diets, and so on. It depends on the activity, it depends on the person, what they want, what they're looking for, and so on. Another point 4, as few transported foods as possible, but that's not a complicated point. Everything that is insulin causes insulin to rise. Anything processed in principle is acidifying and sugary and raises insulin. There are things that are often unnatural. There are preservatives. All these things create clogging, and they're not raw products, so they need to be used by the body. The body doesn't recognize them in the digestive system, so it's going to require a digestive effort, so it's going to tire you. It will tire your organs. Processed food, what you find, take gluten-free bread for example, is ultra-processed. So it's better to eat an old shoulder loaf with gluten at the very least than it is to eat a processed loaf without gluten. It's a disaster. So it's better to make your own bread than to eat these processed foods. Then there are all those rice cakes, all those things, everything that's packaged, processed by man, too tampered with. You can forget about these foods. These are not foods that are considered healthy. They're foods you might consider to be pleasurable from time to time. You're making a processed product. That's all there is to it. So I won't go into detail. I could go on for more than an hour on each subject, but I'm not going to. And avoid fast sugars in the evening. Yes, every time you have a quick sugar in the evening, it's going to raise blood sugar. The food bowl is going to be sweetened, so it's going to interfere with digestion. It's going to create gas, SIBO, or SIFO bloating. Bacteria will fester, moving up from the colon to the small intestine. So you're going to putrefy, make gas, what we call SIBO, small intestine bowel overgrowth. So too many bacteria, and that's it. So that's really something to avoid. Sugars will raise insulin levels, so it's going to interfere with sleep because you have circulating insulin at night, and then you can't sleep. If you eat too many carbohydrates at night, you won't sleep. So it's going to interfere with sleep, it's going to make you tired, you won't recover as much, and then it's going to acidify you. In principle, anything sweet in the evening, depending on what the sugar is, will acidify you. So acidity means inflammation. So you're going to get inflamed. It's a vicious circle. So sugar will also create diabetes. It's going to deplete the pancreas. Insulin is the hormone of lipogenesis. So you're also going to store CORA in addition to creating diabetes. And that's it. So enemy number one, I'd say, between salt, sugar, overformed products, I'd still say number one, still sugar. Everything that's produced, quick sugar, cereal bars, chocolates, cookies, candy, that's it. These are sugary foods that should be limited as much as possible as a pleasure. After that, they're not assimilated in the same way if you take them on their own or with other foods. The glycemic load will vary. So the more you mix them with healthy foods, the less impact they will have on blood sugar levels. That's it. Then another point, provide good fats. An omega-3 for the fluidity of the body's cell membranes, we need an omega-3 ratio that can be analyzed by blood tests. It can also be seen in questionnaires that people can fill in. Omega-3s are also anti-inflammatory. They also modulate the immune system. They are also useful for depression. If you don't have enough omega-3 in your body, your immune system becomes more fragile. Autoimmune diseases can come more easily. You have a pro-inflammatory background. Your intestines are not well maintained. All digestive mucosa needs omega-3 and phospholipids to renew itself and function. You need phospholipids in your body. So these tests are a bit costly, but from time to time it's worth knowing where you stand if you're not lacking certain fatty acids in your body. Basically, it's fish oils. 2 oily fish a week, 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil will just about cover the needs you have to function. After that, we can't go into detail, but there are some vegetable oils that can't be transformed into EPA and DHA, so it's a good idea to provide EPA and DHA directly. Some oils can't work on the elderly. They have an enzyme called delta V, the delta V of saturases. These enzymes decrease in the digestive system. Over the years, we become less efficient and these enzymes are no longer activated. As a result, we can't really transform fatty acids from vegetable oils into EPA and DHA. It doesn't happen. It's very difficult. That's why we need to supplement. After that, it's better to use non-direct fish oils. As you can see, avoid acidic foods. There are many acidic foods. Eggs are one of them. I'm not saying you shouldn't eat them because I'm quite partial to eggs, but when you eat an acidic food, you always buffer it with a basic product. That's the basis of nutrition. So when you eat an acidic food, cheese, red meats, if you happen to eat a lot of industrial products, these products are acidic, buffer them with a basifying vegetable. Provide vitamins and microfoods. The morning starter, to get the brain working, the brain's neurological factors, to launch what it wanted, the mitochondria, the energy aspect of the morning, you need a starter. That starter is vitamin C, so it's good to provide doses of vitamin C. Personally, I use Racine de Sapin. It's a product I use and import. It's my flagship product. It's the product that works in the field. I've made a video about it for those who want to know what it is. There are explanations on my website. Fir resin is a lot of natural vitamin C. You should know that synthetic vitamin C is made from something called ascorbic acid, which is chemical. All that creates inflammation, acidity, and crushing. You can put synthetic vitamin C in the garbage can. Everything you find in pharmacies is garbage. It's all acid. It gives you diabetes. It's a toxic product. People who are injected with vitamin C may have an antiviral effect, but afterwards you have side effects. When you take too much synthetic, after a while it's going to clog up your intestines and liver. It's going to produce toxins, micronutrients. Vitamin C isn't the only one. You have everything magnesium. You've got olive and magnet. You've got the whole battery of vitamins. It's good to carry enough. Vegetables contain just as many vitamins as fruit. Unfortunately, you shouldn't bet everything on fruit. Go for vegetables instead. You get the same amount of vitamins and minerals from vegetables as you do from fruit. You don't have the effect of sugar, which raises your blood sugar. Avoid too much sugar. It's fructose. Fructose is still harmful. It raises your blood sugar. You create acidity. You create inflammation. You can almost make a capsule. But how do you get cancer from fruit juices in the morning? Fruit juices are taken in the morning. You raise insulin. You create acidity. You create inflammation. You initiate phase 1 of cancer. If you do that every day, you gain weight. Fruit juice in the morning is really the thing to banish. Learn this occasionally. When you do a sports session, you come back, you need your carbohydrate refills, a shot of fruit juice. At that point, it might make sense, but apart from that, in the morning you have an insulin spike. It's a disaster. Smoothies in the morning, no good at all. I don't recommend that. In the morning, it's all about protein if you eat in the morning. After that, I do intermittent fasting. We can have a discussion about breakfast or no breakfast. It's up to you. You have to leave 3 hours between the last meal and bedtime. Too many people eat and then go to bed. Digestion takes place. When you have digestion going on for 3 or 4 hours, you can't really sleep. You can't really sleep. You're excited by insulin. And when your digestive system is indigested with food, you can't really sleep properly. You always have to give it time. That's a given. Studies have shown that. Telling me that gluten isn't dangerous, that you can eat gluten isn't true. There are very clear publications on the subject. Zonulin has been detected. Zonulin is a marker of degradation, of intestinal permeability, of a worsening of the digestive system, of the intestinal mucosa to be precise. And people who eat gluten have a higher level of zonulin than a TMA group who don't eat gluten. So eating gluten creates porosity in the intestine and is a breeding ground for all kinds of autoimmune diseases. If you overdo it, you're in for the long haul. If you take 2 a week, nothing will happen. But if you take them every day, over the long term, you can create autoimmune diseases. That's for sure. See advice. Dairy products, without going into all the details, contain growth factors. We're not made to consume dairy products. You can use small animals such as goats or sheep, which are closer to human beings, but sparingly. The problem isn't necessarily always lactose, but it's always casein, which is the inflammatory protein that causes damage to the small intestine. Then there's the hormonal factor estrogen. If you give children dairy products, they'll develop breasts, will have completely abnormal hormonal responses. We're not made to consume dairy products. It's what we call a pleasure food from time to time, from time to time. To work with food associations, I've made a little capsule, the last one, on associations when coming out of fasting. It's a good idea to respect these associations, avoiding cereals, legumes, proteins, and carbohydrates, for example, or really limiting proteins and carbohydrates. I'm not going to go into detail about all the associations, but it's really important to pay attention to them. Some foods don't go well with others. An apple and a banana don't go together. There are 2 different types of fruit, and so on. I won't go into detail here. To combat eating fruit, we understand that it blocks digestion. Fruit takes 45 minutes to digest. If you take it after a meal, it's going to create fermentations and gas, because the fruit wants to get through but can't. It's like there's already something in front of it, because there's already something there. So it's going to get in the way, blocking digestion. You get tired and lose vital energy when you don't digest. Digestion. The most important thing in nutrition is to retain as much vital energy as possible. The worse you digest, the more you affect your vital energy. The weaker your vital energy, the lower your immunity. The more organic and physiological problems you have, the fatter your organs, the more toxemia you create. The more vital energy you have, the more you can detoxify. At 20, you don't detoxify the way you do at 60. The key to health, one of the key principles, is to keep your vital energy for as long as possible. As naturopaths, my number 1 key principle is that I use every possible technique. Everything is good. Anything that adds vital energy to the body is good. Naturopathy isn't just about plants, it's not just about aroma, it's not just about phyto, it's not just about physical exercise. We take everything that's natural, everything that's in nature, everything that comes from the living, everything that can be used in a simple way and that we find in nature, and we can bring it to the living. It can be taking prana, sunbathing. Right now I'm sunbathing. All this is charged with prana, vital energy. All the techniques we use during dry fasting bring vital energy into the body to support the fast. That's why we have people who manage without too much preparation, without too much difficulty, to last at least 5, 6, 7, 9 days. Whereas if you're at home with no knowledge, with nothing, it's complicated to fast alone. If you use support techniques, you'll also benefit from the group effect, which helps everything around you. But using techniques to calm the nervous system and bring vital energy to the body in a natural way is the key to health. Whether you fast or not in your life, this is always valid. Secondly, reduce high temperature cooking. Avoid microwaves. those garbage cans. If you put food in the microwave, it's a disaster. It changes the molecular structure of the food. If you put it in your mouth, it overheats and causes cancer. Tests have been carried out on rats. All the rats fed for a month on microwaves died. Those that were fed vegetable food after juicing were all alive. None died. So no minute is 50. 120 degrees is too much, so it's in between, but it's too much. We avoid high temperatures, high cooking temperatures, that's it. Toxic. The last hyper important point, I'd say, if I were to summarize in terms of importance, but I'd say this point is crucial, is mastication. So the point of mastication, we place a great deal of importance at the end of dry fasting on mastication. We chew the yolks more than usual because when you chew twice as long, you encourage 50% of all digestion. So encouraging 50% digestion means saving 50% vitality. So we'd be foolish not to. I think 50% of hospitals could be emptied if people chewed. The great flaw in people is non-mastication. I can talk about it because I come from a family where we didn't chew, we didn't swallow our food, and even today, it's an effort for me. So when it comes to chewing, you really have to concentrate on each mouthful. You can't be distracted by the TV, and you can't be distracted by heated discussions and so on. In Japan, they concentrate, they don't talk too much during the meal, they chew, and that's why there are centenarians why some people live to be 130. If I had to pick out one point from all this, it's almost one of the most important. You get a lot of energy back when you chew well. When you come out of a meal, you don't feel any heaviness, it just goes away. 50% of the digestion is already done, so it's fundamental. So there you have it. We could go on, but these are the fundamental points. You've got everything in this capsule. So it's been a pleasure, and see you next time, who knows, for another video.